Namaste, good afternoon, and welcome to the post-lunch special session at the 19th CII Sustainability Summit titled India's Leadership in Driving a Sustainably Conscious World. It is indeed a pleasure in welcoming the chief guest today, Shri Bhupender Yadav, Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the Honorable Minister. We would also like to welcome Mr. Sanjeev Puri, President, Confederation of Indian Industry, and Chairman and Managing Director, ITC Limited. And Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, Confederation of Indian Industry. I would now like to invite Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee for his opening remarks.
Our Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, the Government of India, Shri Bhupender Yadav ji, Shri Sanjeev Puri ji, the President of CII, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Mantri ji, today we have 14 plenary sessions on this subject, sir. And the special plenary session with you, as you can see, we have not just these 400 people in this room. There are live streaming sessions because we couldn't accommodate in this room in the other hall. But another good feature, sir, is we are having a startup exhibition in the adjoining hall on innovations on climate, on the circularity, all of this, but captured by startups. वो भी हम कर रहे हैं, and B2B meetings, which we have been doing actually over the last 2 days today. Around 200 we have been able to schedule. So some of those are business side of it, which you always like to happen, we have been able to carry out. So we are indeed very, very honored to have you and your presence. And this is the 19th edition of this flagship summit on sustainability. And this year, as you were walking in, you were asking us the theme, and it is driving change for a sustainably conscious world. So, isi theme is what we have adopted. So, what we have seen under your visionary leadership, we have been able to work with countries around the world, and we have been able to catalyze your government's very unique, if one can say, innovative and some of the path-breaking initiatives that you have taken, you have championed, the programs, the schemes on sustainability, that have been something that we have been able to socialize, and our country's strides towards the journey have mandated really very well by your ministry, as well as across. We have seen the country. Yesterday, sir, I was in Gandhinagar attending a conference on Reinvest, and we see the type of leadership our country has established in this entire ecosystem, and we really want to laud you, appreciate your leadership. Thank you for all your guidance and support over the years. Sir, as an institution, you have always asked us to focus on this subject very strongly, and every year we have deepened this particular institute, which is called the CII ITC Center for Excellence on Sustainable Development, is an institute which has been very, very strongly sponsored, led by the ITC group, and they have really given us over decades phenomenal support as a private sector promoter for this institution. And we are covering many, many areas through our centers. We would like to just mention that our work on water through a innovative tool which is called WattScan is well integrated and IT driven, and also GIS and remote sensing based information, which enables comprehensive watershed evaluation for water planning and assessment. So that's one important new area of work which is going on for the last just for some time. And another aspect of our work, which from this institute, which we wanted to highlight, is our work with our farmers on helping them with sustainable agricultural practices, which includes managing crop residue. So we have been working with almost 1.5 lakh farmers in 700 villages in 12 districts of Punjab and Haryana. And the agriculture practices adopted by the farmers have resulted in several millions of liters of water which is being saved, and we have avoided carbon and CHG emission on account of reduced burning of the residue. So we have on the sidelines of this summit, in that startup exhibition where I was talking about, where some of them are exhibiting how the innovations which will convert the residues into useful products. And to help our industry build resilience to the growing and this unpredictable nature of climate events which we were talking as we were walking in, we have also designed a physical climate risk assessment framework. And we are leveraging our various offices around the country, sir, as well as the Center of Excellence, to identify some key adaptive strategies as per the specific requirements and cascading the framework to industries across the country. So lastly, I just wanted to mention also about one of the other efforts that we have taken, which is on green building and voluntary green building rating. And that has received a phenomenal record of more than 14,000 plus green building projects coming up, with a registered footprint today of about 12 billion square feet of certified green building space. So this is second only to United States in the world, that India's achievement. And we have certified over 8,000 plus green products, or many types of products that go into the building, and helped over 2,000 companies to improve their energy efficiencies. And one of the important components of this effort has been working with our MSMEs on climate action. So much of these ideas, as you will appreciate, had come from the previous interactions that we have had with you, and you had told us to engage particularly on the small and the startup ecosystem and the MSMEs. So once again, we are indeed delighted and honored that you have graced this important occasion, and we would like to understand from you as to how do we keep on this track and do more under your guidance. And once again, a very warm welcome to you, Honorable Minister, for being a part of this very important summit, and welcome all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. I would now like to invite Mr. Sanjeev Puri to please address the gathering.
Shri Bhupender Yadav ji, Minister for Environment, Forest, Climate Change, Government of India. My colleague from CII, Chandrajit, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a privilege for me also to welcome all of you to this very important summit on the theme Driving Change for a Sustainability Conscious World. It's indeed a privilege, Honorable Minister, to extend to you a very warm welcome. We're grateful, sir, for you for sparing this time to be with us today. And I also take this opportunity to congratulate you for leading unique initiatives aimed at the adoption of sustainable practices, encouraging circular economy, inspiring pro-environment behavior change through timely policy interventions. Mission Life, Lifestyle for Environment, a unique initiative announced by the Honorable Prime Minister at COP26, became a global movement in March this year when India's resolution on promoting sustainable lifestyles was adopted by the United Nations Environment Assembly. The inspiring vision of Viksit Bharat recognizes that environmental sustainability is central to the country's growth ambitions as well as the net zero goal. As India navigates the challenging development pathways to a Viksit Bharat, the guiding principle of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas will chart the contours of this complex journey. We've all been witness to the escalating extreme weather events, that today pose existential threat to society. The annual global temperature in 2023 crossed the threshold of 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial level, and this is the 9th consecutive year of 1% plus temperature. July this year was the warmest July as per NOAA's data for 175-year record. And the consequences of this are there for all of us to see. 318 out of 365 days in the last year, we witnessed at least one extreme weather event. Agri-value chains, which are most vulnerable to climate change, have faced tremendous challenges. Studies, in fact, indicate that there could be major decline in crop yields due to climate change, as much as 9% over time. According to the World Bank, India could cross the human survivability index from rising temperatures with more than 75% of the workforce exposed to heat stress by the end of the decade. Aggravating this is the severe water stress impacting 2/3 of the country's districts. We've all been witness earlier this year when several parts of the country faced water shortages, water challenges. And whilst there has been a lot of commitment on net zero at enterprise levels, at country levels, but the global Stockdate report of COP28 very clearly says that we are not on track to achieve the goals set out in the Paris Agreement. India, in fact, is the only G20 country that is on track. It is evident that efforts need to be accelerated rapidly for us to deal with this very serious issue that faces the entire world. And India, though, has lower emissions as compared to the world average, but is also facing the brunt of it because climate change has no boundary. While on one hand, we are seeing actions being taken to decarbonize, actions on circularity, on energy transition, and so on and so forth. Certainly, a lot more needs to be done, and the pace of change needs to accelerate. A lot of resources are called for to manage the transition, which is not merely about the technology, but it's also about the social costs associated with the system's transition. India alone needs, it is estimated, $12 trillion by 2050. And this will have to be funded by a combination of public, private, and multilateral funding to catalyze private investments. It is important to create economically viable technologies. It's important to create the right incentives and disincentives, and at the same time reduce the frictions in the system, because with economic viability, private investment is bound to flow and get accelerated. And I like to compliment the government for taking several measures in this direction. And besides the proven and economically viable solutions that of course need to be accelerated, I think I also like to compliment the government for the initiatives to develop the technologies and the pathways for tomorrow to deal with some difficult to abate or hard to abate sectors, including areas like green hydrogen, carbon storage, capture, amongst others. While this effort must no doubt get accelerated, I think at the same time, the reality is that the reduction in temperatures is going to happen after a long period of time. Till such time, we have to go through a path where temperatures will move upwards. And that means more extreme weather events. So how do we, as a society, adapt and learn to live in this world which is going to get hotter, which is going to have more extreme weather events? How do we adapt to that? And I think that is a very, very pressing need, very, very pressing need. And this is a difficult subject because it is about managing the physical risks associated with multiple dimensions of the society. However, we still need to design effective adaptation strategies, and which need to be implemented at multiple levels. We need to develop the science behind it, supported by evidence-based policies, and driven by data-driven risk assessments. Now, this is a very, very important and critical and pressing area that needs to be addressed immediately. And in that context, I like to also again acknowledge the government of India's efforts in developing the National Adaptation Plan and setting up the National Adaptation Fund. And we have at the CII ITC Center of Excellence on Sustainable Development, we have also been working on this subject for a fair bit of time, and over several months. We've also been working with our partners in developing an approach for this difficult subject. And we do have a certain set of suggestions, the report, the summary of which will be released today. And I'd like to share some key facets of it. And I hope, Honorable Minister, some of these suggestions you would find useful as you formulate the policy. Now, what we have, what we really say, the starting point is when we have to address a risk, it goes without saying that you have to assess the risks. Assessing the risks not merely from past data, but also being able to look forward and see what could happen in future. So what we do require is, one hand, availability of history of all this data. Second, we do require sophisticated AI-based tools to be able to forecast. And therefore, what we are proposing, what we are suggesting is, if a public utility which captures data and also sophisticated AI-based technologies which are being developed in some areas, so that this is available to the public at large to be able to assess and understand the risks associated. And that will be the starting point to be able to develop the mitigation plans. Second, what we are also recommending is, because a lot of decision making, particularly in corporates, is driven by economic considerations. So we must also put down the economic costs of not acting, and therefore this report also talks about a framework to kind of put a number to the economic costs. Research has shown that $1 spent on adaptation leads to $4 of saving, but everybody does need to put it down in its own context. The third facet this report covers is provides a framework to deal with these risks that are identified. Frameworks to address the risks that arise immediately and also risks that would arise in future. So the forecast will help you understand risks in future, and there can be a modular method of approaching it. And these risks could be in the physical infrastructure, could be to do with agri-value chains, could be due to availability of water itself for carrying out industrial activity. And this report also captures certain proven solutions that have been, or good examples that have been employed by society at large, by companies at large, and that have been proven to be successful. The fourth important pillar here is the importance of partnerships, because there are multiple stakeholders that have access or use the same resource. So all stakeholders, along with the government, in the spirit of true partnership, need to come together to be able to find a solution. And lastly, a very important area is the need to address the challenges, very, very importantly, to focus on MSMEs. And this is an area that Chandrajit also spoke about. At the center, we have been working closely with MSMEs in building capacity. These we believe are good starting points to address this issue about climate adaptation. And as we go along, I'm sure there are unknown pathways also that will have to be evolved and discovered. And in this context, I want to emphasize that, corporates, as very important economic organs of society, must play a critical role. We are, after all, trustees of societal resources, and we have a responsibility of nourishing these resources. And it is also in our self-enlightened interest to do so. And I believe when you bring these objectives right into corporate strategy. Very interesting and innovative pathways are discovered to provide solutions that integrate simultaneously the creation not only of shareholder value, which is the economic gains, but also simultaneously creates environmental and social capital, what is commonly known as triple bottom line. And in ITC, we have been practicing this, and we call it responsible competitiveness. And I seek your indulgence to just give a little example from ITC, because that's the journey that I have gone through, just as sharing an experience. So we have nearly over nearly 3 decades been practicing the triple bottom line approach, and today we are probably the only enterprise in the world to be carbon positive, water positive, solid waste recycling positive for nearly 2 decades. The first 12 hotels in the world to be LEED certified net zero carbon hotels are all ITC hotels. Now all this has happened in over a period of time, and it is not that the economic interests have been compromised. We fortunately also have happy shareholders. So all this can be done simultaneously. There is no inherent contradiction. And it's also, as an organization, makes us more efficient. It also, as an organization, creates some preferences for people who are looking to stay in hotels, for example, that have low carbon emissions or zero carbon emissions. So there is a win-win situation. In recent years, there's been a lot of focus on adaptation, because we have seen the impact on our physical infrastructure. We have seen the challenges of water. We have seen the challenges in the agri-value chains. And I just want to give 2 examples quickly, or maybe the starting point on how we assessed our risks. We used an advanced AI climate risk modeling tool to assess the risks in our catchment of operations and to the communities in which we operate. We looked at 140 sites. We looked at select agri-value chains, identified the hotspots, and these were evaluated over decadal time frames extending up to 2100 under various shared socio-economic pathways. Dynamically, this will have to be updated. And as an outcome of that, there are certain initiatives we took. One was climate smart agriculture. It now is nearly in 3 million acres. And I'm happy to say that the ones that we started a few years back, 70% are in high resilience and high yield category. And in those areas, GHG emissions have reduced between 13 to 66%, and farmer incomes have improved by up to 90%. So what is good for the planet is also good for the farmers. The second area I want to speak about is really water, which is a very, very serious challenge we face. So we worked on the agriculture side and on the industrial side as well. On agriculture, working both on the demand and supply side. Demand side through better practices, up to 50% reduction. On supply side, through integrated watershed management, we have 32,000 structures contributing to irrigation in 1.6 million acres. This again builds resilience of agriculture. Similarly, in industrial catchments, because we do realize that if there is no water, industrial activity cannot continue. So all our sites in high water stress areas, we are getting AWS certified. And we thought that it's not just enough to stay within the fence, we have to go out of the fence. Because if there's no water in that catchment, in isolation we will never succeed. So first we worked on the river basin near Ranjangaon called the Gaud River. And after a few years of working along with all the stakeholders, from being a negative water balance, today it's in the positive water balance. And similarly, now we are working in several other river basins with stakeholders which are around our catchment areas. And the idea is again to make it a positive water balance. So I thought I would share some of these examples just to illustrate that there are certain pathways and solutions available today. And we all need to work together, share practices, share experiences, and collaborate to build some of those facets that are so very important to adaptation. Before I conclude, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the 19 years of partnership between CII and ITC since the center was established, and since that time the center has come a long way and has evolved and has got many areas of deep expertise. And I like to compliment Seema and her team for the tremendous work they are doing, and CB for the continued mentorship at the center. And I'm sure over the next 2 days you will all find very interesting and very insightful sessions and good learnings to take away and apply in your sustainability journey. And I would once again, Honorable Minister, like to thank you for being here with us today. And you've always taken visionary steps in accelerating India's sustainability journey. And we in CII remain committed, industry remains committed to this path. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts and guidance as we chart out the next steps at the center. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Puri. It is indeed our privilege to request the Honorable Minister to unveil this report, Building Climate Resilience for Indian Industry. I request our dignitaries on the dais to kindly step forward. Thank you. I would now like to invite our chief guest for the summit, the Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, for his keynote address.
श्री चंद्रजीत बनर्जी जी, श्री संजीव पुरी जी, यहाँ उपस्थित सभी प्रबुद्धगण और वर्चुअली जुड़े हुए भी सीआईआई के सभी अटेंडीज। अभी जब संजीव पुरी जी विषय रख रहे थे तो पेरिस एग्रीमेंट का उल्लेख कर रहे थे और वो कह रहे थे कि G20 देशों में भारत एक ऐसा देश है जिसके एनडीसीज ट्रैक पर है। मैं इतना ही एडिशन करना चाहूँगा कि केवल ट्रैक पे नहीं है, हमने पेरिस एग्रीमेंट में जो अपने 8 एनडीसीज डिक्लेयर करे थे, 3 क्वांटिटेटिव थे, 5 क्वालिटेटिव थे, 3 में से 2 टारगेट हमने समय से 9 साल पहले पूरे किए हैं और उसका श्रेय हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी को जाता है, जिनका जन्मदिन भी है। पिछले 10 सालों में उनकी विजनरी लीडरशिप में हमने हमारे देश में न केवल एनडीसीज के टारगेट को अचीव किया है, बल्कि अगर आप पिछले तीनों कॉप देखेंगे, जब ग्लासगो का कॉप हुआ था तो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मिशन लाइफ का एक पूरा विज़न सबके सामने रखा था और ग्लासगो में हमने दुनिया के सामने विषय रखा था कि जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज़ हैं उनकी एनर्जी नीड्स की हकीकत को भी रोका नहीं जा सकता। उसके बाद जब शर्म शेख का कॉप हुआ तो भारत ने अपने रिवाइज एनडीसीज पेश किए और पिछली बार जब यूएई में कॉप हुआ तो ग्लोबल स्टॉकटेक लिया गया, लेकिन भारत दुनिया के उन चुनिंदा देशों में है कि पेरिस के बाद जो ग्रीन हाउस गैस के जो एमिशन की बाइनियल रिपोर्ट दी जाती थी, हमने 2019 की इन्वेंट्री के बेस पे दी और दुनिया में ये सिद्ध किया कि हमारी ग्रीन ग्रोथ और इकोनॉमी की ग्रोथ दोनों बराबर चलती है। भारत ने एग्जाम्पल सेट करके दुनिया के सामने रखा है। और इसलिए आज का जो टॉपिक आपने रखा है, ड्राइविंग चेंज फॉर ए सस्टेनेबिलिटी कॉन्शियस वर्ल्ड, विषय जब सस्टेनेबिलिटी का आता है तो सस्टेनेबिलिटी ये हमारा सोशल गोल है। मैं सोशल गोल इसलिए कहना चाहूँगा कि किसी पे कंपल्शन नहीं है कि उसको सस्टेनेबल लाइफस्टाइल जीनी है। ये दुनिया की एक हकीकत है कि जिस डेवलपमेंट के पाथ पर आज दुनिया जा रही है, अब उससे हम पीछे नहीं हट सकते। अब उस पथ पर आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जो डिग्निफाइड लाइफ है उसमें आज इस बात की आवश्यकता है कि दुनिया के हर व्यक्ति को एनर्जी के रिसोर्सेज पहुंचाने पड़ेंगे और हर सरकार को पहुंचाने पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि हमारी तरक्की का जो मेन आधार है वो एनर्जी है। आजकल एनर्जी ड्रिवन लाइफ है और इसलिए सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात जब दुनिया में सभी प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे चलती है तो लोग ऐसा मानते हैं कि जितना कंजम्पशन हम लोग कर रहे हैं, क्या उतना कंजम्पशन करने के बाद हमारा कार्बन एमिशन 4 और 5% है, लेकिन दुनिया के 17 डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज की पॉपुलेशन को जोड़ दिया जाए और उनकी इंडिया के बराबर जो पॉपुलेशन बनती है, उनका कार्बन एमिशन 60% है। तो बहस इस बात की होनी चाहिए कि हमारा जो डेवलपमेंट है वो इससे नहीं रुक सकता है। दुनिया को नापना ये चाहिए कि कार्बन एमिशन नहीं, पर कैपिटा इसका खर्चा कितना हो रहा है, इसके आधार पर मानक तय होने चाहिए। और इसके लिए हम दुनिया में सारा विषय रखते हैं। दूसरा विषय जब चलता है वो लॉन्गेविटी का चलता है कि अल्टीमेटली जितने रिसोर्सेज हम लोग यूज कर रहे हैं ये कितने समय तक चल सकते हैं। और केवल क्लाइमेट चेंज में एक सब्जेक्ट तो ये आता ही है कि धरती का तापमान बढ़ रहा है। अभी मेरे से पहले के वक्ताओं ने भी उसकी तरफ अपना विषय रखा था, लेकिन धरती के तापमान बढ़ने के साथ धरती के बायोलॉजिकल रिसोर्सेज, बायोडायवर्सिटी कितनी बच रही है, और उसके साथ जो हमारी उपजाऊ जमीन है, डेजर्टिफिकेशन ऑफ लैंड की कितनी चुनौतियां जो फ्यूचर में फूड का संकट को खड़ा करेंगी। और इसलिए सस्टेनेबिलिटी में पहला विषय जो मैंने कहा कि ये जो अर्थ है इस पे लोगों का एग्जिस्टेंस कितना रहेगा अगर यही पैटर्न कंजम्पशन का रहा। जो मोस्ट डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज हैं उनका कंजम्पशन का अगर पैटर्न आज अफ्रीका की इथोपिया जैसी कंट्री के भी लोग अपना लेंगे तो आज ही हमारा एक दुनिया से काम नहीं चलेगा, हमें कम से कम 7 दुनिया चाहिए, 7 ईयर। अगर कंजम्पशन पैटर्न ये रहेगा, हमारा 17% पॉपुलेशन होने के बाद भी कंजम्पशन पैटर्न जो है वो अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज के बराबर लाइफस्टाइल के कारण। तीसरा जो विषय चलता है वो ये है कि अगर दुनिया का एग्जिस्टेंस खतरे में है, रिसोर्सेज की लॉन्गेविटी पे अगर हम सोच रहे हैं, तो आज के समय की दुनिया में 3 बातों का बैलेंसिंग करना जरूरी है। वो 3 बातें हैं, पहला एनवायरनमेंट, दूसरा इकोनॉमी और तीसरा इक्वलिटी। क्योंकि जो डेवलप्ड और डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज के बारे में बात चलती है और पेरिस के बाद लगातार चाहे शर्म एल शेख में लॉस एंड डैमेजेस फंड बनाने की बात हो, चाहे पिछले यूएई की कॉन्फ्रेंस में ग्लोबल स्टॉक टेक लिया गया हो, और अभी भी जो इस बार की जो कॉप होने वाली है अजरबैजान बोको में, वहाँ भी ये कहा जा रहा है कि डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज ने ये कहा था, हिस्टोरिकली उन्होंने सबसे ज़्यादा स्पेस का कार्बन एमिशन का क्षेत्र उन्होंने ले रखा है, उन्होंने डेवलप जो आज वो हुए हैं, तो उनकी हिस्टोरिकल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। और इसलिए उन्होंने वादा किया था कि $100 बिलियन और टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोवाइड करेंगे, लेकिन दोनों ही विषय में पूरे नहीं उतरे। और अब जब न्यू क्वांटिफाइबल गोल तय किए जाएंगे दुनिया के, जितना एमिशन अभी हो रहा है और डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज अपनी एनर्जी की नीड के हिसाब से जितना उनको आगे अपने एनर्जी के रिसोर्सेस को बढ़ाने में करना होगा, तो $100 बिलियन तो बहुत छोटा हो गया है। अनुमान है मोर देन $5 ट्रिलियन पैसा आज दुनिया के सामने चाहिए होगा। इसलिए 3 बातें मैं वापस से रिपीट करना चाहूँगा। पहला विषय है एनवायरनमेंट, दूसरा है इकोनॉमी और तीसरा है इक्विटी। क्योंकि राइट टू डिग्निफाइड लाइफ ये हर आदमी को चाहिए, और इसलिए जो की आइडिया है हाउ टू यूज द रिसोर्सेस को हमें किस प्रकार से और कितने अच्छे तरीके से दुनिया में यूज करना होगा, ये सस्टेनेबिलिटी का कोर आइडिया है जिस पर हमको बात करनी चाहिए। और इसलिए पहला विषय तो कंजम्पशन पैटर्न का चलता है। अभी आपने हमारे चंदन जी ने और संजीव जी ने पानी के संकट को लेकर के बात बताया है, और हम जब मिशन लाइफ में इस समय देश के जितने भी यूथ हैं जो इस समय देश की यूनिवर्सिटीज़ वगैरह में हैं, उनसे हम लोग आइडियाज़ फॉर लाइफ ले रहे हैं। आइडियाज़ फॉर लाइफ का अर्थ है कि हम अपने स्टार्टअप खड़े करें, अपने नए इनोवेटिव रिसर्च करें। हमें आज के समय में अगर देश में अपनी इकोनॉमी को भी आगे अच्छा बनाना है तो 7 बड़े कोर आइडियाज़ पे नए से नए प्रोजेक्ट्स, स्टार्टअप, इनोवेशन इसको लाना होगा। पहला है सेव फूड। कितना खाना 1.5 ट्रिलियन कितना फूड वेस्ट होता है, केवल फूड वेस्ट। दूसरा सेव वाटर। तीसरा सेव एनर्जी। इस एसी हॉल में बहुत लोगों ने हाथ ऐसे कर रखे, 23 डिग्री पे भी चल सकता है, लेकिन एनर्जी है, वी आर यूजिंग दैट। सो सेव फूड, सेव वाटर, सेव एनर्जी और वेस्ट को एनर्जी में कैसे बदला जा सकता है। लेकिन अब वेस्ट छोटा हो गया है। सबसे ज़्यादा जो 5वां खतरा है वो ई वेस्ट है। 6ठा खतरा है हेल्दी लाइफ स्टाइल, और 7वां है कंप्लीट बैन ऑफ सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक। और इसके अल्टरनेटिव पे हम लोगों को जाना होगा। और इसलिए एनवायरमेंट सस्टेनेबिलिटी, सोशल सस्टेनेबिलिटी और इकोनॉमिक सस्टेनेबिलिटी, ये किसी भी पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क में सरकार जब पॉलिसी बनाएगी तो तीनों विषयों का एक रिदम बनाकर तीनों में बैलेंसिंग एक्ट करके ही आप देश में इस विषय को आगे बढ़ा सकते हैं। हमारी जो मिनिस्ट्री है, हमारी मिनिस्ट्री एक तरह की नोडल मिनिस्ट्री है। हमारी मिनिस्ट्री के द्वारा जो रेगुलेशन बनते हैं, होल ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट अप्रोच में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, फॉरेस्ट और क्लाइमेट चेंज के द्वारा रेगुलेशन किए जाते हैं, जिन्हें अन्य मिनिस्ट्रियां बहुत अच्छे तरीके से, एक कोर्डियल तरीके से उसको लागू करने का काम करती है। जैसे ई वेस्ट के विषय पे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी के द्वारा किया जाता है। टॉक्सिक एंड हजार्डियस इंडस्ट्रियल वेस्ट के लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ केमिकल के द्वारा स्टेप्स लिए जाते हैं, रेगुलेशन हमारे द्वारा बनते हैं। स्क्रैप मेटल के लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्टील के द्वारा स्टेप्स लिए जाते हैं। एंड ऑफ लाइफ व्हीकल, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट के द्वारा उस विषय को आगे बढ़ाने का काम किया जाता है। जिप्सिम DPIIT के द्वारा। फिर यूज्ड ऑयल, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पेट्रोलियम और नेचुरल गैस के द्वारा। सोलर पैनल के लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के द्वारा। और म्यूनिसिपल सॉलिड वेस्ट जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्बन के द्वारा किया जाता है। और पिछले समय हमने इस विषय की हकीकत को जानते हुए कि सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी एक आने वाले समय की बड़ी आवश्यकता है, हम लोगों ने सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी के एक्शन प्लान के लिए टायर, रबड़, उसके लिए भी हम लोगों ने रेगुलेशन बनाने का काम किया, ताकि जो बड़ा वेस्ट है इस पे हमारे स्टार्टअप नए तरीके से काम कर पाए, हम रीयूज़ और रीसाइकिल को लेकर के आगे बढ़ पाए। और सरकार ने सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी की इसी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका को मानते हुए पॉलिसी, रूल्स, रेगुलेशन और प्रोग्राम, इन सभी में काफ़ी आगे कार्य किया है। और इसलिए पिछले दिनों हमने पब्लिक कंसल्टेशन में भी डाले हैं 2016 के जो हमारे रूल्स थे, चाहे सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स हो, चाहे हमारे प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स हो, जो अर्बन क्षेत्र में नए विकास को लेकर जो सबसे बड़ा विषय है कंस्ट्रक्शन एंड डेमोलिशन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के जो रूल्स हैं, उसके साथ ई वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स भी ये जितना ज़्यादा बढ़ रहा है 2022 में हमने इसको पब्लिक डिस्कशन में भी डाला है। ई वेस्ट के साथ बैटरी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, अभी जितना इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का काम चलेगा, सरकार ने उसमें भी पॉलिसी स्टेप्स उठाते हुए उसके रूल्स को आगे बढ़ाया है। हजार्डियस एंड अदर वेस्ट रूल्स 2016 के हैं, उनमें हमने और अमेंडमेंट किया ही है। फिर जो सबसे बड़ा विषय हम लोग इस समय सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी में EPR जो है उसको लेकर के, जो एक्सटेंडेड प्रोड्यूसर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर वेस्ट टायर, उसी के साथ साथ एक्सटेंडेड प्रोड्यूसर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर यूज्ड ऑयल। फिर जो इस समय जितना एक और बड़ा विषय हमारे सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी में आता है वो बायोमेडिकल वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, वो भी एक बड़ा विषय है। फिर ऐश यूटिलाइजेशन के नोटिफिकेशन मिनिस्ट्री के द्वारा निकाले गए, और मोटर व्हीकल्स रजिस्ट्रेशन फंक्शंस व्हीकल स्क्रैपिंग फैसिलिटी के लिए भी किए गए। और गवर्नमेंट ने अपने प्रोग्राम को बनाने के लिए वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, शहरों की स्वच्छता के लिए स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के साथ गोवर्धन इनिशिएटिव को सरकार ने आगे बढ़ाए हैं। और इसी के लिए प्लानिंग को करने के लिए हमने स्टार्टअप इंडिया, प्रधानमंत्री रोजगार योजना, आत्मनिर्भर भारत, प्रधानमंत्री कौशल विकास योजना, प्रधानमंत्री कौशल केंद्र, जन शिक्षण संस्थान, एडवांस वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग स्कीम और ग्रीन स्किल को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रोग्राम को सरकार ने बनाने का काम किया है। और हम ये जानते हैं कि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिस्टम में भी हम अगर आज इस विषय को देश में आगे बढ़ाना चाहें भी, अगर नए एंटरप्रेन्योर इस क्षेत्र में आएंगे भी, काम करेंगे भी, तो उसके लिए भी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिस्टम डिज़ाइन, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए सरकार ने, मेरे पास लिस्ट है, एक स्पेसिफिक प्रोग्राम किए हैं और कुछ की इनिशिएटिव भारत के द्वारा लिए गए हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में नेशनल रिसोर्स एफिशिएंसी पॉलिसी, बायो इकोनॉमी और बायोफ्यूल को लेकर के, और इनिशिएटिव नीति आयोग के द्वारा भी समय समय पर इसके प्रमोशन के लिए किए गए हैं। ये इतना महत्वपूर्ण आज के समय में विषय है कि हमको दो चीज़ों के लिए, क्लीन एनर्जी को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रोत्साहन देने के लिए हमें नए मार्केट भी डेवलप करने पड़ेंगे। और पिछला कॉप जब हुआ तो प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा ग्रीन क्रेडिट फंड जो है उसको हम लोगों ने इनिशिएटिव दिया है। वैसे इस साल के 5 जून का जो हमारा इंटरनेशनल एनवायरनमेंट डे था, तब प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा एक पेड़ माँ के नाम अभियान चलाया गया, लेकिन इसमें कॉरपोरेट सेक्टर आए, इसमें कॉरपोरेट सेक्टर आकर के एक सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के नाते भी काम करें। अभी हमने इस योजना का नोटिफिकेशन निकालने के बाद इसको एक पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के तौर पर सरकार के इस 100 दिनों में चलाया है, कि स्पेसिफिक एरिया और टारगेट दिया है। और मुझे बताते हुए खुशी है कि जो हमारा पायलट प्रोजेक्ट है उसके बेस पे हम इसको आगे लेकर के चलने का काम करेंगे, लेकिन उसमें लोगों ने बहुत रुचि दिखाई। और सबसे बड़ी बात तो ये है, इसके अलावा जो जन भागीदारी का अभियान चलाया, एक पेड़ माँ के नाम अभियान, उसमें 50 करोड़ से ज़्यादा सैंपलिंग लोगों ने लगाकर हमारे पोर्टल पर रजिस्टर्ड कराए। हम हमेशा ये कहते हैं कि इस ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव को बढ़ाने के साथ ही सरकार ने कार्बन मार्केट को स्ट्रॉन्ग करने के लिए भी, हमारे एनर्जी मिनिस्ट्री ने कार्बन मार्केट के विषय को आगे बढ़ाया। फ्यूचर में सरकार इसको और आगे बढ़ाने का काम करेगी। और इसलिए जो सबसे बड़ी आवश्यकता, आपने एक पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट निश्चित रूप से मेरे को दिया है, लेकिन जो आपने इनिशिएटिव लिया है, क्योंकि फ्यूचर में भी इतना बड़ा ये जो सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी की जो चिंता पूरे दुनिया में बन रही है, पूरी दुनिया उसमें चलना चाहती है। उसके लिए सबसे बड़ी बात है सरकार ने अपनी तरफ से ईज ऑफ डूइंग के नाते पॉलिसी सेक्टर में काफ़ी काम किया है। मेरे द्वारा जो लेजिस्लेशन और रूल्स आपको बताने का प्रोविज़न था, आप में से बहुत लोग यूज़ करते होंगे, लेकिन एक जॉइंट प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम सरकार के इनिशिएटिव और विज़न को अगर हम सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी के हर सेक्टर पे महसूस करेंगे तो निश्चित रूप से सीआई के द्वारा भी जो अभी मुझे ये पॉलिसी का डॉक्यूमेंट दिया गया है, रिसर्च को और बढ़ाने का विषय बढ़ाया जाएगा, क्योंकि इस क्षेत्र में रिसर्च बढ़ेगी। जब रिसर्च बढ़ेगी तो अपने आप में ये जो मैंने पहला विषय कहा था, एनवायरनमेंट सस्टेनेबिलिटी के साथ साथ सोशल सस्टेनेबिलिटी और इकोनॉमिक सस्टेनेबिलिटी तब आ सकती है जब रिसर्च के साथ इसका मार्केट भी बढ़े। पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क में जो हम ईज ऑफ डूइंग की बिजनेस की बात करते हैं, तो रिसर्च के साथ मार्केट भी बढ़े। और रिसर्च और मार्केट बढ़ना नहीं है, रिसर्च और मार्केट के साथ जो तीसरा विषय है, इसके लिए स्किल बढ़े, क्योंकि वेस्ट को वापस से रीयूज करने के लिए भी स्किल को बढ़ाना होगा। और तीनों ही पॉलिसी के विषय पे सरकार बहुत अच्छी तरीके से कार्य कर रही है और आपके सहयोग के लिए काम कर रही है। और इसलिए रिसाइकल इकोनॉमी के साथ साथ सरकार का इस बात पर भी ध्यान है कि आज अगर आपने देखा होगा कि सरकार ने क्या 100 दिन पूरे हुए हैं। आज हमारे देश के गृह मंत्री जी ने भी 100 दिन का एक रिपोर्ट कार्ड दिया है कि अगर 100 दिन में सरकार के विषयों को देखेंगे तो सरकार ने सबसे ज़्यादा काम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बढ़ाने का, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ रिसाइकल इकोनॉमी को बढ़ाने का और इसके लिए कॉपरेशन करने का भी सरकार के द्वारा कई क्लाइमेट एक्शन प्रोग्राम भी प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में चलाए गए हैं। जहाँ तक मिशन लाइफ का विषय है, अभी एडेप्टेशन की बात हुई है, सरकार के द्वारा दुनिया के क्लाइमेट चेंज के लिए मिटिगेशन मेजर्स तो किए जाते ही हैं, लेकिन मिटिगेशन मेजर्स के साथ साथ एडेप्टेशन प्रैक्टिसेस सोसाइटी अगर करती है, लेकिन उतना होने के बाद भी हमको दुनिया को अगर सस्टेन करना है सोशली, एनवायरमेंटली और इकोनॉमिकली, तो हमें कंजम्पशन पैटर्न में भी दुनिया में चेंज लाना होगा। कंजम्पशन करने में मनाही नहीं है, लेकिन ऐसा कहते हैं कि माइंडफुल कंजम्पशन होना चाहिए रेदर देन माइंडलेस यूटिलाइजेशन। और इसलिए माइंडफुल कंजम्पशन की ओर हम सब लोग अपना अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन करें तो भारत दुनिया में एक एनवायरनमेंट सस्टेनेबिलिटी के साथ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ और इकोलॉजिकल ग्रोथ दोनों को साथ लेकर के चल सकता है। और CII जैसा इंस्टीट्यूशन इसमें रिसर्च, इनोवेशन, प्रैक्टिस और कॉपरेशन के माध्यम से बहुत अच्छा योगदान दे सकता है, ऐसी मैं आपसे अपेक्षा करता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for this very insightful address. I think you explained some of the principles that all of us need to follow in very simple terms with 7 steps. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for your leadership. And we in CII remain committed to be a very strong partner in this whole visionary journey that you and Honorable Prime Minister have set in place for sustainable growth. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Once.
I request all the dignitaries to kindly step forward for a group photograph. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we conclude the special session. We thank our dignitaries on the dais for their time, presence, and thoughtful comments.
Good afternoon. I request everyone to please be seated as we now begin with our next session. So the next session is on nature conservation and restoration. The session will explore the role of businesses in conserving and restoring nature, highlighting global framework and task force on nature-related financial disclosures. It will emphasize the need of companies to identify nature-related risk and integrate nature conservation into decision-making, aligned with the summit focus on sustainability conscious practices. कशिश आ गए ना सारे मैं बुला लूँ स्टेज पर हाँ I request everyone to please be seated. It's my honor and privilege to welcome our distinguished panel members and moderator to the dais. Ravi sir. Ravi sir, भेज दो डाइस पे. कशिश भेज दो. बोल दिया बोल दो मुकाबले डाइस पे. बोल दो. Welcome everyone. I now invite Mr. Himal Tiwari, CHRO, Chief Sustainability and CSR Tata Power to lead the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is my voice all right? Just to check. All right. So good. What a session we had earlier. I think reflection on what the minister was saying, and of course others, including seniors and also Mr. Puri, is amongst other things is a phenomenal point that was made on lifestyle. And again, as we see the lens of sustainability, as they say, many roads to heaven, and there are many paths to it. And we at this session will pick up one of them, which is ecosystem conservation and restoration, which is
one key part of it. It is very timely. We see that a lot of, and the data was shared that in the instances of climate change, instances of disruptions are happening, and perhaps we will find them on an increasing degree. At the same time, a key part would be ecosystem, and ecosystem is a complex topic, and a topic that actually, if you see the evolution of perhaps the way that the dialogue on sustainability has evolved, it is catching up. You see climate part of this thing has been really up, and it's much more in discussion, much more framed. Some of this is coming about, and I think in some shape and form this is the evolving dialogue that we need to have. It's a very complex topic, and a key part is how businesses are getting involved in it, how corporates are getting involved in it. And I think what we would want to do in this session is, with this panel that we have across representation, and I think I'll introduce them separately, is how do we come together of making this come alive and addressing some very complex issues as a collective. A collective is very important. Even the minister had mentioned that this is something that transcends, and this is much more, it's not only government, it's not only NGOs and policymakers, the regulators, the corporate, and of course the society at large. So it's a very important topic for all of us. And again, while the framework is getting involved, we had the coming Montreal Global Diversity Framework, and the TNFD as it is evolving. It is getting more clearer, but yet also we talk about implementation issues, interpretation issues. We talk about how corporates are responding to it. And again, this entire classical business versus or business and kind of discussions are coming up, and I think we need to address it in this. Perhaps we will try to address it in a candid, open fashion. So this session also we will unveil what is the IBBI 2.0. As some of you are aware, India Business and Biodiversity Initiative is now 10 years old along with CII, and I think one needs to compliment CII to take this for all these years, and today we will unveil a more refreshed, updated, and in sync with what is the reality, and of course updated with the Montreal framework, and of course taking inputs from what is happening here globally, and of course feedback from the industry. This is IBBI 2.0 will unveil what is the contemporary forward-looking response from the partnership that we are having along with CII. All of us are here, and again I will encourage all of you to participate in it, whatever is IBBI 2.0 platforms and initiatives and other initiatives. So I think we will unveil it in times to come. Again, I'll deep dive into what this session is. First, of course, my introduction. My name is Himal Tiwari. I head HR, Sustainability and CSR for Tata Power Group of Companies. A little bit of my background. I've initial part of my life was in consulting. I then worked with Tata Sons. I was in the corporate, looking at corporate leadership, corporate governance type of roles, and then I moved to Tata Power 6 years back. In the spirit of what we do at Tata's, it has been a core part of what we do in response to business. Even before some of the frameworks came in, a way to respond to aspects like biodiversity and conservation were heart and center. Some of you are aware, Tata Power ran the Mahaseer program, and this is now the 5th decade of it. Again, some of us on the panel were involved in it, and it is a program that was in our hydro basins. We have hydro plants. This was a species that was endangered, systemic action over a period of time, and working with communities, working with conservation, and well, in 2020 report by WWF made Mahaseer, one species of Mahaseer came out of the endangered red category out of it. So some of those action plans as a corporate we've been doing for many years, and And this is a topic which is very close to the heart of what we do as business in Tata Power, but also as the group. So in this, I would like to also now introduce my panel here, very distinguished panel. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Shukla to my left, an officer of the 1992 batch of Indian Forest Service, which is allocated to Madhya Pradesh cadre. Presently, he is the Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. He is also additional charge of Additional Director of Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. Dr. Shukla actually has an extremely wide range of experience. He comes with in different branches of forestry, including wildlife conservation, and served as the Field Director of Kanha Tiger Reserve, Madhya Pradesh, and also the Inspector General of Forest, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. He has, to his credit, a lot of several publications relating to conservation, and is a renowned conservation photographer with images in many national and international publications. Welcome to the panel, sir. Also introducing to my right, Mr. Ravi Singh, who is the CEO and Secretary General WWF India, very familiar face for all of us. He provides strategic direction to the conservation work of WWF in India, one of the key national organizers of the WWF International Network. Prior to this, he was actually a career banker for many, many years, and again followed his passion, and now has a very key interest in nature conservation, and has been extensively working across formats in India and working with various organizations. Has been in this space for many years, and again a veteran, and we will be benefited from his wisdom on the panel. Lastly, I would like to invite Ms. Rinika Grover, Head Sustainability and CSR Apollo Tyres. Over 26 years of experience in India and UK in the sustainable development domain. She heads global sustainability function at Apollo Tyres. Some of you are aware, it's an Indian multinational tire company, and successfully developed a sustainability management framework within her organization. She heads global ESG, and her current focus is on climate change action strategy and, of course, building a decarbonization roadmap for our organization. Additionally, heads CSR for India and Europe. So, welcome all of you, and a round of applause for the panelists here. Okay, so let me just start off with, Dr. Shukla, this is coming up for you to, look, we are aware that, India has about 96,000, whatever we understand, species of animals. Around 360 of them are in the endangered list. Just wanted to, from your role as Central Zoo, authority, what are the various actions that you perhaps would want to, or currently doing in partnership, and of course, your thoughts of how does the corporate interaction happens, and what is your role for that? Over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So firstly, I'd like to give a brief idea about this organization, the Central Zoo Authority. So many of you may not be aware. So this is a statutory body that was constituted under the Wildlife Protection Act. And this is headed by the Honorable Minister for Forest, Environment and Climate Change. And the authority is headed by the minister, and this is a 12-member authority. And incidentally, this year, we in the nominated institutions category, where CII also became a member of the CESD. So CII, in the form of CII, we are getting a lot of support from the business world also in shaping up our framework and the policies also. Now coming to the issue of the biodiversity and what is the role of Central Zoo Authority as such in executive conservation. So normally we see the zoo as a place where people go to see the animals, not a place exactly for the just recreation and fun. So these are the places where we are putting up a lot of effort for the ex situ conservation for all those species which are under pressure, and there is a threat of getting extinct from the field. So just to give you an example, like some of the species for which we are doing, and they are really doing good. So we identified 75 endangered and critically endangered species that includes many of the mammals, birds, reptiles, and even the amphibians. So one of the species, red panda, one of our zoo, Padmata Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park, that is also known as Darjeeling Zoo. So they are doing extremely good work in the red panda conservation. So when we do the ex situ conservation, so we do it in a scientific way. We maintain stud books, and just to maintain the heterozygosity in the bloodline, we also get the animals from the other countries. So the founder population for the red panda program was also, we got many animals from other European countries, Netherlands, then New Zealand, Australia. So this has been one of the most successful programs. Last year we released 3 females which were bred in captivity, and in the Singalila National Park, they mated there with the male partners and they gave birth to cubs. So that way we are just doing this effort for rewilding or back to the wild of this species, which is on the verge of have a lot of threat in the nature as such in the wild. This year, World Association of Zoo and Aquarium, that annually they organize a conference in one of the locations. Last year it was in US, and this year it is in Australia, and would be organized in November. So they have identified 3 best conservation projects across the globe, and it ranks among top 3, and maybe, I'm not sure, like it may be one of the best projects to be recognized internationally. Another one very good effort is being taken up is about the snow leopards. So for last 4 decades, again the Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park, and in the captivity we have bred around 80 cubs have been born in captivity. And this is quite a good number and the largest population in captivity across the globe. So this is one of the things. Now coming to one major effort which we are doing is about the frozen zoo or the biobanking, where we also do need support of the corporate world in this sort of effort. Just to give an example to the audience, like one of the species like Northern African white rhinos, now they are almost extinct because there are only 2 females left, that too in one of the conservancy in Kenya, Al Pajato. So there are, not being any male there, so it means they are virtually extinct. But San Diego Zoo, in their frozen biobanking facility, they have a genetic material of about 12 different individuals. So like the Przewalski horses, which once they got extinct in the wild, so they were cloned, and then they were able to just give, by cloning they could produce the new calves, and then gradually, finally they were released in the wild in the Mongolia. So these are some of the efforts. So in India also we initiated about the biobanking or the frozen bank with one of the leading institution, that is Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. We established a lab, that is LACONS, that stands for Laboratory for Conservation of Endangered Species. So there also we are funding the biobanking facility, but we need a setup in different regions across India. So this is one of the things. Now coming to the threat to wildlife or the biodiversity, just to give you some figure from the WWF, which comes out every 2 years with a report, that is Living Planet Index. So every 2 years it is released. If you see the figures of the last 100 years of the wild mammal population, in the last 100 years we have lost to 83% of the wild mammals. Now coming to the population of mammals, birds, fish and amphibians, in the last 50 years we have lost close to 68%. So the WWF and with the Zoological Society of London, they come and do this exercise, and just to show a trend of the population. So there is a lot of threat because of the land loss, land degradation, and ultimately the loss of biodiversity. So from the Central Zoo Authority, we are taking up such conservation breeding programs. The other successful species for which we have been, species for which we have done some successful work is the pangolin, then mouse deer, vultures which were lost. So we had a facility in Penjore where with the help of BNHS we did a good amount of breeding and then they were released. Recently they were released in Maharashtra in Melghat and Pench Tiger Reserve. So these are some of the works which we are taking up.
No, I think, well, thank you. This is amazing. And again, from a corporate lens point of view, this entire possibility of biobanking, and again, how do we integrate into, some of us are doing various kind of work. And I think, Ravi, I just have to just throw this in an extension of what, we heard. And again, with all of your experience working with these programs, and again, when we talk about how do we sustain these programs? These are, and again, we are coming out of experience. The Mahasir Conservation Project took us 50 years. You were involved in that very intensely. And how do we create those commitment that, from corporates and tenacity? Because somewhere corporates have this, I talk about it, my horizon is 1 or 2 years, and these are sustained long-term issues. Share your perspective on this.
So just to put the same perspective, Shri Sanjay Shukla was the field director of Kanha Tiger Reserve, one of our topmost in the country, and a great example of conservation globally. And is known for one species, which is the hard-ground Barasinga, research on which started in the 60s. It took us somewhere close to 40 years or more to stabilize the population, to enable it to go back and relocate it into areas where it thrived earlier. Like Satpura and Bandhavgarh. It took more than 40 years, almost, I think.
Yes, 40 years.
Yeah. Tigers, who generally are better at adaptation, and Sariska Panna took about 15 years for the population to finally stabilize after they were locally extinct. And nature takes longer. CSR normally is about 2 to 3 years. Organizations such as yours, who have taken up a parameter of achievement on a mission mode, which means that we will take this up and we will support it to an extent where we see a cycle, a season could be anything, like you said, 50 years. The initial outlay and the existing outlay, even today, is not substantive. But it's the knowledge, and most importantly, it is the commitment to fulfillment. Now, the commitment to fulfillment can take a much longer time. Conservation, and this is what I'd like to emphasize again, is not about putting large amounts of money into an area or an organization or institution. It is about putting a regular amount of flow over a period of time. So, the sustainability of this finance, the regularity and the security of the income should be there in order to make things happen. I'll give you another example. Wetlands, which looks pretty innocuous, once you lose their value in terms of their biodiversity, it can take between 5 to 7 years to come back. One of our best wetlands in northern India is Bharatpur. It's a national park. It's a heritage site. It's an area of very high importance in terms of ornithology, bird activity is concerned. Twice in the last 20 years, it has been attacked by various issues, invasives, no rain, no water, all those issues. And this year it is overflowing, and it is not exactly short of water. On the other hand, it might flood over. Both these issues, dryness in a wetland is a part of its life. Overflowing too, But between these two parameters must come regularity. That means there's proper management, there's proper research, there's proper understanding. And to prevent invasives to come back, because invasives are the ones that really destroy natural habitats. So this is what I meant by sustainability. Governments, when they bring in the plan, like the Honorable Minister said, they think of a longer period of time, because you can't go into something and withdraw. The Indian Forest Service, which was put into place in 1960s, actually had a longer plan for all of their either wildlife or their territorial work or their social forestry or whatever. They couldn't work on a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year cycle. They work with a cycle which may be 10 years at a go. Similarly, I would request that we are sitting in an industry forum with one of the top organizations of the country, CII, and looking at issues like sustainability and environment management. And you spoke about the IBBI, which are examples which are not followed anywhere else in the world. Let me just say this very openly, in my experience. And therefore, we need influence from this fora to be able to say, even if you have to spend money under CSR or whichever head, don't do it for a period of 2 years or 3 years. Try and make it sustainable, at least in this subject what we are discussing.
Yeah, okay. No, I think it's a interesting perspective, Ravi, in terms of the lens of horizon of planning, and I think that's where somewhere business planning horizons and these times need to coincide. And I think, Renika, I'll come up with this lens is, how do we look at corporates? Now, corporates integrating some of these, nature-based actions, and especially now, how do we integrate? Some of you operate globally as well. Now, also, especially I can take an example of the European deforestation amendments and things. Now, how corporates dealing with some of these things, and what is, you can share your perspectives from an Apollo Tyres point of view.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll just give you a bit of a context, but I kind of agree with what Ravi just said. It has to be sustainable, and I wear 2 hats. So I wear a CSR hat and I wear a sustainability hat as well, and I'll give a perspective from both. But when we're talking about biodiversity, and of course, we know that there is a momentous decline over the last few years, and it's absolutely huge. And we're seeing that happen year on year, and mainly why does that happen? If we look at, there are 2 areas specifically. One is, which is very, very important for the corporates as well, is climate change that I had, and looking at decarbonization. And now there is a bit of a catch point here as well. So usually when you see, all the countries, the way they are making their ambitions of net zero, whilst it's very important to move to away from fossil fuel, increase your renewable energy, but recently, and specifically in the World Economic Forum recently, there was a huge conversation around biodiversity credits and nature-based solutions. Why is that? Because when you're looking at hard-to-abate areas specifically, then you're looking at offsets as well, and that is not your game point, because that is not where you should be moving towards. You first need to look at various other elements, but that is one of the biggest things where we are losing. We're seeing this decline, and nature-based solutions are coming in the forefront. And the other one is human activity, deforestation. And I'm glad you actually mentioned about EUDR, which is the European Union Deforestation Regulation Act. I would say that wearing both the hats, one side where you see such regulations come up in Europe, and we are actually tackling with it as well, because natural rubber is one of our key raw material, key one. And we have to make sure that by 2025, 1st of January, we are, because of the act being there, we are complying with natural rubber coming from the forest land which is not deforested, which is going to be very difficult because the systems are still at a very nascent stage, but the organization is working towards that. So I say that legislations are enablers. But as organizations, what do organizations do? Where do organizations see biodiversity as a very, very critical area? And that is something It's also coming into the forefront from various, the reporting elements, because the reports have leapfrogged as well recently. So you see all of that push, but within the organizations, what can we do? And I can give you a couple of areas where Apollo's been working in this space. So for us, biodiversity for a very long time has been in the forefront, and it's a global initiative. It's not something that it came from the CSR, and I am so happy that you, sir, you said that CSR spend needs to be made sure it's flowing into it, because at the end of the day, you have to make sure, and these projects are not something which is going to bring you outcomes straight away. It's not going to give that. And you have to ensure that there is a consistent way of investing in the project. So for us, when we're looking at through CSR, long back in our CSR strategy, we said that biodiversity is one of our core areas. We will invest, and we've been investing in a mangrove conservation. Year on year is the same thing, but it's because the ecosystem is so rich. And why? Because our plants are in the coastal area, so we felt that that's very, very important for us to invest in, and it's been consistent. But one very important fact in CSR, which I say everywhere, is that we cannot work in silos. We have to have some kind of partnership. So we have started to look at government partnerships where, the corpus is small, but the volume and the kind of work is huge. One aspect is that, but when we're talking about the organization overall, so it's not just limited to my CSR spend. We're working in Netherlands, in Hungary, where we have a plant. We have looked at a different kind of park where we've looked at reviving it, and these are not limited to our CSR budget. Very importantly, and I'm just conscious of the time, very importantly as an organization, when we are looking at biodiversity and ecosystems, there is an imbalance, we also realize that various aspects of our value chain are there is interface. So, I spoke about natural rubber. So at various stages, we are very, very mindful that there is impact of our operations. So what exactly can we do? So we did join IBBI through that lens very recently, saying that we need to look at, from our manufacturing operations, where exactly is the gap, what are the opportunities, where the needs are, what exactly our operations have cost, so that we can actually plug those as well. So we're very new in the space of IBBI, to be really honest, but we've actually done the assessment across our operations. And I would say, to come back to your point, you said road to heaven. It is, because when you're around there, you just see there's so much work that needs to be done. But the end game is eventually, it's those steps that that the corporates and everyone else has started. So that's the overall piece of work that I can outline in terms of
interesting. I think, and also from a multinational company headquartered out of India, I think it is fascinating to see how this play happens. You have local manufacturing working with local governments. But I think I'll come to you. There's some questions that I'll come to you. Dr. Shukla, I have been in Forest Service for many years, and I think Ravi was also alluding to some of the successful examples. From the conservation point of view, if you were to share with the audience with the lens of saying, what worked well in your experience, in some programs that you became signature, that worked well, what do you think were the success 2-3 mantras that you can share with us here?
So I'll start with some of the global commitments we do have here in India, whether it is KMGBF or Global Land Initiative or SDG. So coming to, and then there is a bond challenge issuing the address of land degradation. If you see the global perspective, since 1990, we have lost close to 420 million hectares of forest land. In India, initially the target for us for the restoration of the degraded forest land till 2030 was 19 million hectares. Our Honorable Prime Minister himself, he increased it to 26 million hectares. This is to be achieved by 2030. By 2024, already we have achieved close to 20 million hectares. So that is quite a big achievement. Then about the issues of related to this global biodiversity frameworks. So many of our activities, because once you see the global perspective, So almost close to 23% of the agricultural land is not fit for agriculture now, and close to 75% of the area has transformed from its original state and it needs restoration. And all these issues of land loss and biodiversity, climate change, these are all interlinked, and this is a vicious cycle. So when we talk of triple planetary crisis, climate change and the pollution and the biodiversity, so we need to address these issues through various approaches. So to address all these issues, some of the schemes which government has launched, like ma'am was referring to one of the mangrove partnership, having corporate partnership with the government. So we have program that was launched last year on the World Environment Day by Honorable Prime Minister is MISTI, that is Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Income. So that is for restoration of the mangrove areas as well as engaging the local communities for different livelihood activities. Another is Ravi Singh ji was referring to the wetlands, how India in the recent past has done very well in declaring, now we have close to 85 Ramsar sites, and those wetlands have been declared. So India has got a very good network of protected areas. We have close to 1,000 national parks, sanctuaries, we have 55 tiger reserves, 33 elephant reserves, then 85 wetlands. So all these are helping in the biodiversity conservation. And recently, one of the very successful, the intercontinental translocation of any large cat was that happened, and that has been very successful. Last year, on the occasion of 50th year of the Project Tiger, Honorable Prime Minister also launched the International Big Cat Alliance. So India is a leader in a way for managing the big cat population, and out of 96 big cat range countries, addressing to the issues related to 7 of the big cats, India has 5 big cats in our country, and now it is a global leader. Through this alliance, it is supporting to the other countries also.
I think we should have a round of applause for this.
Yes.
I think this is phenomenal work.
So
I think sometimes it doesn't get stated, but I think this is very, very impressive.
that has really been a great achievement, having a global leader for the big cat management across the globe. So that was launched last year.
Fantastic. I'll lead you into this. I think we need to also look at audience, but 2 questions that will come up. Ravi, from your own experience, you have seen this space evolving over these years. And more specifically, talking about this public-private partnership. This is also about partnerships. Maybe you could share some perspectives on where you see partnerships going well. What do you think are areas that you've seen work well, and possible areas of challenges? Perhaps I think we could also call upon which are open issues, which you think are challenges when we do something like in a public-private partnership.
So, generally public partnerships by definition would be 2. One is by local communities, which is the more common one, or would also involve the government through its state agencies. I would consider that also public, because after all the government serves the larger public. On the private side, it is foundations, it is individuals, it is corporates, and it's the entire segment in terms of MSME or large, or in every sector as it goes. The change which I see is in twofold. Number one, that the knowledge and awareness of biodiversity and the importance of restoration, I'm just tracing it through the time we started IBBI and where we are today, the quality of the conversation has improved to such an extent that one could not have imagined. So we can talk about that separately. Number 2, the involvement and care of people when they go out, because many corporates who are sending out people for their people and their families to understand what's in the area and to see if they can do something on education, on interventions, etc. This kind of number, quality and the content, it was not seen at least some time back. 10 years ago, we would not be having a conversation like that in this room. Yeah, we would not. CII tried a lot, but they used to be much smaller, but here you have a focus. The Minister of Environment has come and spoken on larger issues. We are talking about nature conservation and restoration in a CII conclave. Unimaginable. Yeah? And what will happen as a result of this? Of course, there will be risks, there will be criticisms, there will be this, you guys don't do enough, you do more. And which way is it moving? The trajectory is moving forward, it's moving upward. Yeah? My country, my nation is actually being much more proactive than a lot of other countries outside in a way that is not known. And you just said, let's clap for this because these things are not heard. But the point is, India doesn't market itself well on this. Anyway, that's a separate issue. Lastly, I'll give you an example. I'm sorry I'm taking a bit long. On Saturday, I was in a conference, whatever you call it, a panel, sorry, in Amritsar in Khalsa College. Beautiful hall, about 450 people in it. Teachers, academia, press, local representative of industry, CII was there in force, and of course the students and in the question and answer session, and this is the indicator I'm telling you because this is where all this is going. In the question and answer session, the elders, the people who are, let's say, seniors above 50 or above 40, they were asking questions relating to economics and environment and the local issues and state-related issues and what's going to happen to groundwater and what's up. All the student questions, and there were over a dozen questions coming from the audience, were all about climate change and larger global problems. It was all about the issues where our future lies. And it was, in a way, not saying it in that sense, but in the back it was, what can we do about it? So this is what it has changed.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm just taking this point up is, it's when you profile, again, I'm donning my HR hat and I'm profiling for the new generation, you call it whatever, Gen Z or millennials or what have you. Incredible how are they taking issues which are much beyond the classical here and now. They are more global, they are more systemic, more social, and I think it's a very, very valid observation. And again, needless to say, we are also here because of personal passion of some of you who have carried this torch for all these years. So thank you very much, and I think we can clap for who have dawned all these years and taken this passion. Again, last question before you open it to the audience. Now, coming from a very corporate lens, one of course is keep doing CSR, but also when we talk and integrate nature-based solutions, talk about circularity even from a biodiversity point of view, making it integral to supply chain and all our operations. Any perspectives you have? Are you looking at compliance as a lens and TNFD directions? But how do you use and take this frame, from an approach point of view?
It's a very interesting and a very pertinent and a very difficult question as well, but I'll give you, there's no straightforward answer to this. How do we see? So it's not through the CSR lens. As I said, I started saying that I wear two hats, so it's not through the CSR lens only. It is overall in terms of sustainability, and it has to be because businesses, and it's not just ours. I gave you an example of, for us, where exactly, natural rubber and all that stuff. So businesses kind of understand the importance of it and how it is going to impact the livelihood side as well eventually if that's what it is. So yes, to answer your question, are we going towards TNFD? That is the approach. This is what the organization has embarked upon as well. There's one very important thing when I was just reading through this, and it's very recent, and it just said that, like in terms of when we talk about nature-based solutions, and there is a huge gap currently. And that gap is, it's so huge, and UN's put a report, and it said that if top 500 companies spent only 1% of their corporate profits towards this, it would actually fill 1/5 of the gap in the nature-based solutions gap report by the UN. And I just thought to myself, okay, let me see what's happening in India, because it's a multinational organization, Apollo, but what we do is we always benchmark as well. So we just looked at top 20 companies by market capitalization, what exactly is there any work in biodiversity? Because sometimes it's also very important not to reinvent the wheel, but actually see what's happening in the domain as well. Whilst we are looking as an organization, we are looking at TNFD, we're doing our assessments across the plants. Within our plants, we have various apiculture projects. Basically, all of those small initiatives are taking place, but it's always good to see what the industry is doing as well. And top 20 or 25 companies, there is a biodiversity policy, over 75% of them, that's what but only when you talk about commitments, very few marginally had any commitments, and I'm not saying Apollo has a commitment, we do not have any biodiversity commitment at the moment as well, but that's where it is. Like the panel is saying, there is a lot of work and we are talking about it in India at a very early stages, and it's great. It's also it's not that legislations are pushing it, and I always say that they are enablers. They always help you. So BRSR is far ahead, and others are also as well. So as an organization, it's not just my CSR, it's actually my overall strategy on sustainability that actually has biodiversity as my initiative, and I won't be, and when I say I as an Apollo, won't be working only in, Apollo won't be working across in other geographies within the biodiversity, to make sure the ecosystems in place, and to invest in other ecosystems outside of India if it was just taken as through a CSR lens. So that's, I hope that answers your question.
I appreciate your answer and the way you approached it. I think in my view, in a lot of ways, yes, it is. This is a part of sustainability strategy, and sustainability strategy is a core part of business strategy.
Absolutely.
I think that's the continuum. Another key point that you made, and I think I want to emphasize this before you open it to the audience, is I think this is also, if there is a topic and many others, it is for partnerships. I think this is not only partnerships, which is government, regulator, us, NGOs, but also within corporates. It is such a big agenda. It is, I think we can, as corporates here, come together, work on these platforms, and I think IBBI, will provide all this. Now, on this note, perhaps we will open this up for questions. We can rotate the mic. Please introduce yourself and also direct your question to specifically anybody you want on the panel. I think there are many hands. Can somebody just, the gentleman over there, please.
Namaskar.
Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Rakesh Chabda. I am from R-Cube International, Gurgaon, Cyber Hub. रेनिका जी, आपसे एक सवाल था मेरा कि मैं ऑलरेडी टायर कंपनी के साथ योकोहामा अपोलो टायर के साथ काम करता हूँ. लाखों गाड़ियाँ दिल्ली एनसीआर में और इंडिया में मूव करती हैं, और बहुत सारा टायर जो यूज़ टायर होता है उसको आप लोग किस तरीके से डिज़ोल्व कर रहे हैं. और मेरे पास उसका आइडिया है कि उसका पोल्यूशन कम हो सकता है क्योंकि जलाने में बहुत नुकसान और गैसेस निकलती हैं, तो उससे फर्नीचर्स बन रहे हैं टायर से, और प्लांटर इसको हाफ कट करके प्लांटर के तरह यूज़ कर रहे हैं. चाइना में बहुत सारे लोग ओल्ड टायर से हज़ारों आइटमें बनाते हैं, और मेरा एक्सपोजर है चाइना से, काफ़ी मैं काम करता हूँ. तो मैं चाहता हूँ इंडिया में भी कुछ ऐसा आप करें जिससे पोल्यूशन कम हो इंडिया में टायरों से.
Maybe you. वैसे आई थिंक दिस इज़ अ पर्टिनेंट पॉइंट, बट आई वुड से दैट हम लोग ये सर्कुलरिटी के लिए आगे एक सेशंस है. हम लोग अगर बायोडाइवर्सिटी कंजर्वेशन पे क्वेश्चंस ले तो अच्छा है, बट आपका पॉइंट वी विल पिक इट अप.
बाद में कंसीडर
आप उनके सेपरेटली ऑन द साइडलाइंस बात कर सकते हैं.
ठीक है, थैंक यू.
आई थिंक वी विल हैव टू गो बैक टू यस. I think we can do a bit of a catch practice sometime later. Yes, please.
I am from the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment.
Sir, can I have your name as well, sir?
I am Vishwaranjan.
Okay.
And our mandate is the protection and welfare of the disadvantaged communities, including the scheduled caste, denotified tribes, OBCs, EWS, economically weaker sections, senior citizens, transgenders, etc. I am glad that though the focus has been on sustainability conscious world driven by the corporate and private sector, but the panel have mentioned intuitively about the community, about the natural resources. It's not a question, it's a thought for all of you and all the audience. For any corporate aspiration, for any multinational aspiration, for any forest investment aspiration, for their venture, profit, and other responsibility to be sustainable, the primary stakeholders are the community and the nature and natural resources on which they are dependent. If we don't take care of this, I'll cite two examples. If we don't take care of this, it's a loss-loss situation for everybody, including the foreign investor, corporates, and profit-oriented business. Two examples in which my ministry has been a party. In the litigation in the highest court of law, Supreme Court, order dated 18th of August 2013 against Odisha Mining Corporation, that is a government of Odisha undertaking, joint venture with Vedant Resources UK, and the case was against the particularly vulnerable tribe of Dongoria Kond in Rayagada, Neamgiri. The case started, the violation started. Honorable Minister was from Ministry of Environment and Forest. That order was challenged by Government of Odisha and Vedant Resources UK. That was the beginning, 2003. The finality came in 2013 against Government of Odisha's Mining Corporation as well as Vedant Resources UK. Nobody has benefited. Neither Vedant Resources.
I think I'm getting the essence of the question. I'm just in the spirit of time. Excuse me for that. I will respond to it more look, in Odisha, we are to the point that you're saying that the anchor of anything is community, I think is bang on. We are doing work with, on the ground in Odisha, in elephant conservation. A key part is the human-animal conflict. And the human-animal conflict resolution starts from our work with the community. And that is on various aspects. So I think the point is well taken. I think I think this is a very important point. And again, I'm with you. In the spirit of time, I would like to just rotate this thing.
If you give me 30 seconds, I will underscore my parent department is Indian Revenue Service. We are proactively working for the foreign direct investment to be sustainable in India. We are working with the arbitration court, International Arbitration Court. We are also working with Supreme Court. We are also working with High Courts. This is a forum I want to sensitize and educate all the corporate investors and their clients to take this in spirit that it should be sustainable for all. Otherwise, it's going to be a loss-loss situation for everybody, including government. Yeah. Thank you.
I think it's a yes.
Yeah. So thank you. So
can you introduce yourself for the benefit of the audience?
So I'm Harishchandra Prasad, founder and chairman of Mahalakshmi Group. I sold all my assets and now trying to develop a biodiversity park near Hyderabad, a 400 acres biodiversity park. I'm part of the 3 panels in NBA, National Biodiversity Authority, Telangana State Biodiversity Authority, WWF, Telangana and Andhra advisory boards and all that stuff. But point is, Mr. Ravi Singh, what you said is the quality of conversation has improved. But what I don't still see is that out of the 5 living organisms, we still talk about 2, plant and animal. We haven't spoken about the algae, we haven't spoken about the bacteria and the mycorrhizal fungi and all that. So let me just complete.
Marine also to a large extent.
No, it's a good trend. Compared to last 4 years, probably we improved. But the most important thing for nature to survive, or us to survive in this planet, is the other three, not the plant alone, not the animal alone, but it is a mycorrhizal fungi in the rhizosphere that is going to survive, make us survive here. And that will survive the sixth extinction. We will not. We have only about 40, 50 years or 60 years to, take care of ourselves. We are not doing it. We are still looking at the growth. We never talk in CII about degrowth. There are a lot of other issues that we should concentrate on the macro and the micro level. So this panel, I think, should concentrate more on the other three aspects of the living organisms also. Thank you.
You want to have a shot at it?
I think we are also focused towards the audience that is here and the context in terms of CII. I think that discussion, sir, which you talked about, would be better served. It was started from IBBI, where the expertise amongst the organizations and the institutions lies. Because to change that conversation, to make everyone understand exactly what you're saying, you see, the conservationists understand that, the ecologists do, the forest department does, the scientists do, the doctors do. But in this kind of forum, to bring it into the change process, I think we need a cycle of IBBI to bring that into introduction. And that's my only contribution.
Doctor, you had a point of view on that.
Yes, I just wanted to extend.
You may want to just put,
Just to extend it further, what you said, that is very, very valid. Actually, post-pandemic, we have realized the importance of having a ecological security, because one animal which is very much needed in the ecosystem for pollination, that is bat, and we this credit goes to for the pandemic of COVID to that animal. So what has happened post-pandemic, we realized that there is a concept of One Health for quite some time, but post-pandemic we started working on it. And presently there are about 14 ministries and departments, they are working together for the One Health mission. And just not to addressing to the issues related to the biodiversity of only megafauna or plants, but also looking to the many other smaller animals, because if you see the figures, every year, around 2 billion disease or health issues are related to the zoonotic disease. And almost 60% of the disease related to human health, they come from the animals, they are zoonotic in origin. Every year there are 1 million deaths. So that's why in this year's CBD COP also, the health issue has taken a sort of an important agenda, has got a place in CBD COP also. So we need to look for even like lichens, algae, fungi, everything, and every small bacteria and virus, we have to take care of that in the ecosystem.
Okay, interesting perspective you have raised. In the spirit of time, we will take one more. Yes, I think there's a gentleman at the back. We'll take his question.
Hi, my name is Rahul Nene. I head sustainability for a company called Hutamaki. My question is particular to Mr. Ravi and Mr. Sanjay ji. First of all, thank you for enlightening and truly appreciate the work that's done in India towards conservation. My particular question is, we spoke of climate change, we spoke of biodiversity right now in the panel. One incident that comes to mind is the case of the Great Indian Bustard for me, where specifically right now, recently Supreme Court finally gave the verdict that there was a stay on the transmission lines being erected over the ground, and which was causing conservation impact on the bustard. But Supreme Court gave a go-ahead to it. Now this is a case where the case for sustainability kind of conflicts with biodiversity conservation. As a sustainability professional, I want the renewable energy to grow in India, while I also want the critically endangered species to be protected. In such a scenario, I just wanted to pick your brains. What could be other solutions that can work on both streams, that can ensure, and I'm sure there will be other cases. You come, sir, from Tata Power, and so you have hydropower, and you spoke of Mahasirs. So is there, I'm taking the example of this case, but what can be done in such a situation where there's a conflict of interest when it comes to sustainability, and if you can give some examples.
Look, GIB is a big topic. I think, Ravi, I'll give you to sum it up. I know this is a challenge, but we understand the question. I think why don't you pick up the overall perspective? How do we manage this conflict?
It's very difficult to manage it. We have less than 100 breeding birds left. And the problem is something acute in the sense that when the bustard flies, it cannot see, like other birds, when they see a wider vision. It's got a fairly, narrow vision on both sides. And with that, the habitat is changing. Water has come into the Thar, and the food is changing, the grasses are changing, all that. We are also losing ground in terms of total amount of available grassland. This was a bird that was found in Madhya Pradesh, it was found in Andhra Pradesh, it was found in Telangana, it was found in Gujarat. Now there's very little left. So, if we can't take the cables underground, I'm afraid the bird is gone. And there's another way to do, to have more individuals than the mortality, is to breed them en masse in a big way, like the Hubara is being bred in the UAE. 70 to 80,000 birds being taken out of their hatcheries and populating the system, but for different reasons. The GIB is a bit different from the Hubara. The flight is different. The patterning is different. The food is different. So it's not going to be easy. So this thing. We have bustards which have been brought back in big numbers in Australia. When you look at that bird, you think it's a Great Indian bustard. There's a difference in the species. But Australia has the advantage. They've got vast amounts of grassland and open area and their systems where they could recover the earlier depredations and the extirpations that had happened locally. We can't do that. So it's not looking good. I'm sorry, I may be going against some notions here, but with 100 birds there, it's not looking good. The artificial breeding that we've got, it's a slow process. Like I said earlier, it's going to take 3 generations before you can let those birds out of that WII system. So we need breeding in Bunny, we need breeding in Andhra Pradesh, back in the grasslands, and we need protection for these birds in secondary habitats. Yeah,
I think it's maybe I think we'll try to converge on this. Maybe not the best way to close this on the not so encouraging note, but I think these are conflicts that I think we need to resolve and come together. The answer is not 0 and 1. The answer is not also transmission lines. I understand the problem because I come from the sector. You can't do underground. It's commercially impossible. It is not done anywhere in the world. So that is also not possible. And what Ravi is highlighting is a real issue, right? And again, this is how we come together to solve this. And again, this is long, hard issues. Right down the wire, I think courts are involved. But having said that, this is a phenomenal session. I think we touched upon various issues. We also touched upon, first of course, coming together, and a lot of people who have been in this formats are mentioning that the quality of conversation has really gone up. And I think this is also kudos to the way that IBBI has nurtured this and has come together of this concept. We are now discussing very higher order issues, horizontal issues. And again, this leads into what today now we will unveil the IBBI 2.0 in front of you. And I think if you can bring it up, so please absorb it, review it, and also work with it. I think this is the way that we will co-create and find mention and create value for all of us. So I think in a way, if you can unveil, and I think this will come up as well, and we will unveil it for everybody. We have to stand, is it? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for this session now. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the session. We extend a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelist and moderator for providing us such valuable insights. I kindly request all our speakers to gather for a group photograph. Thank you. We now pause for a small 15 minutes break. After the networking break, we have two parallel sessions, Sustainable Fuels, Paving the Way for Greener Future in Sovereign Hall 1